Hey everybody, and welcome to another video. And as you can see here, I have 5 Star Wars action figures, and they are the 6-inch scale. So I don't have very many of these. I have a lot of Marvel Legends figures, but not very many Star Wars ones. So I thought it might be fun to open a few and take a look at them and see how they stand up next to my other ones. As you can see, I have my coffee, which I'll set aside. And let's look at these figures first in the box. So as you can see, I got most of them for a pretty good price. I found this Mace Windu at Super Dollar, which is a little country store in Alabama. He was $7.99. And of course, Mace Windu is the great assistant head of the Jedi Council, and he almost defeated the Emperor Palpatine in Episode 3 before he was betrayed by Anakin. There is a rumor that he isn't dead and that Samuel L. Jackson will reprise this character in the Book of Boba Fett, which sounds amazingly awesome to me, and I hope that happens. It says, Mace Windu, a grim Jedi Master with an amethyst-bladed lightsaber. Mace Windu was the champion of the Jedi Order with little tolerance for the failings of the Senate, the arguments of politicians, or the opinions of rebellious Jedi. So, this is a really good description, I think. I mean, that really sums him up. The next figure is the classic Episode 4 Princess Leia. This is the way I like to always think of Princess Leia, with that specific hairstyle, wearing her white gown, and on the Death Star as Han and Luke come to rescue her. It says Princess Leia Organa was one of the Rebel Alliance's greatest leaders, fearless on the battlefield and dedicated to ending the tyranny of the Empire. So a great character by the late Carrie Fisher. The next one is a different style packaging. This is the 50th Lucasfilm 50th anniversary packaging, and this is Han Solo. You might recognize this packaging from that Power of the Force line that had the kind of crazy muscle-bound action figures, but this is obviously a much more realistic version. But it even has his identity card in the pack. So, and it shows like the history of Lucasfilm. It doesn't have American Graffiti or THX 1138 in there, or Howard the Duck, or Red Tails, but it has his Star Wars movies, and I like the timeline here. Okay, next is Dryden Vos, which is neat because I have a Vision action figure too. So I got 2 Paul Bettany action figures. He was the bad guy in Solo: A Star Wars Story. I found this one for $7.99 at Rose's, which is a discount store. I've never seen any action figure of this character, so it's kind of cool to have. It says, the public face of the Crimson Dawn crime syndicate, Dryden Vos is a contradiction, a pitiless enforcer known as a gangster of wealth and taste. His good manners shouldn't be mistaken for weakness, though. He can change from generous host to ruthless killer in a moment. So, and finally, another character from Solo: A Star Wars Story. This is Moloch, and this was supposedly the owner of the speeder that Han steals in the beginning of the movie, and it's kind of hard to imagine that this guy could fit in that speeder. He's a epic scale action figure. This, interestingly, is a hard sell for action figures. You find this figure all over the place in dirt cheap, Ollie's, Big Lots, you name it. Discount stores are full of Molochs. No one really wanted the figure. He doesn't particularly look fun or posable. He almost looks like a statue, but I thought I'm gonna give this one a home. So it says Moloch wallows in authority over the lesser thieves of his gang, Like all white worms, Moloch is very sensitive to natural light and must wear special gear when outside his dark lair. So, yeah, these are the figures I'm going to review. And I hope you enjoy the video. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and start with this big Moloch figure. So let's move these others aside. Okay. And give us plenty of space to work here. So we got a good look at the packaging. They're typical Black Series. Got a picture. It's just much larger than the other Black Series figures. So I imagine this is mostly packaging. Okay, and I apologize for that little bit of noise. That was our burglar camera alarm thing. Does a test every now and then. So here's the figure, and the first observation I'll make is he's very soft feeling. You can hear that. I assumed he'd be kind of a hard plastic, but this is very soft plastic. And he feels much more posable, but he has, as you can see, this worm body underneath his cloak. He doesn't have legs. He has like this kind of grotesque worm body, which is a piece of hard plastic. And it comes up to his face here, which there's not a lot of posability here. You've got a mask that might come down a little bit, and you can actually move his head in there a little bit, which is kind of neat. I mean, they obviously put a lot of work into this figure. He has this mask that is supposed to go on right here, I think. It snaps, it should snap in. There we go. It does snap in. And I think you probably had to orient his face to a certain position to make it work best. Like maybe pull this up and then it should stay on. It doesn't want to stay on very well, but it doesn't. But you may not want to display him with the mask. He also comes with this stick staff. Maybe it's like a torch, so he can see in the dark. And he comes with this pistol that looks somewhat like a Derringer, like an old-timey Derringer. And there is a holster that it fits really nicely in right there. And if you wanted to put it in his hand, it also fits. He does have a trigger finger. So there you go. You can hold it really well. It doesn't seem like a very threatening weapon compared to all the other weapons we saw in Solo, but maybe he's supposed to be like a big important guy, so he would have bodyguards. But the pistol does fit amazingly well in his hand. But I think probably because the mask has such a hard time fitting, we'll stow the pistol here in the holster, then put his stick in his hand here, and then maybe have him holding his mask. Oh. Like he's just about to take it off or put it on. Yeah, like that. And that's a pretty good pose. He's quite heavy. So that's Moloch. Interesting figure, and I actually like him a lot better than I thought I would. So that's a score on that one. Coffee is still way too hot. Okay, the next figure we'll open is Dryden Vos, and we'll look at the packaging one more time. Picture of Paul Bettany. Actually, the figure looks more like Paul Bettany than the picture, which is interesting, and he looks like Vision, which is, you know, kind of cool. I have two Paul Bettany figures. Actor I like a lot. Make sure there's no those rubber bands on the back. Another very interesting figure that probably is, you know, a lot of people didn't buy it, or maybe it just wasn't widely distributed because I never saw it before until I saw it in Roses. But the figure itself is actually really cool looking, and it feels really cool. He has this kind of like cape, almost, or like a business suit almost too. The facial sculpt is just great. I mean, that really looks like him. The detailing, the paint is great, is just wonderful. And he has excellent articulation. He has these little, they look like brass knuckles, sort of. His hands are molded for a blaster, but you can still put them in. And you could get in some interesting poses, like kind of a fighting pose. This stays on really well, which is nice. So you can. He has like regular office loafers on, which is kind of funny, because he's kind of a businessman, like a gangster or something. But you can definitely get him in some pretty good poses. Now, Star Wars action figures have a bad tendency of not standing up well, but he does stand up really good without help. Like, you can really stand him up really nicely. Not a bad figure. They filled in the joints, so he doesn't have empty joints, which is a hallmark of cheap figures. I just get the idea that they put a lot of work and time into these, because these are really kind of good. It's kind of a shame that they ended up at the discount store unwanted, you know. So, but I think both of these are fine action figures. As you can see, they pose really nicely. I mean, they look really good. Even if you didn't like the movie Solo, A Star Wars Story, a lot of people didn't really like it. It doesn't mean you can't get a really cool action figure. So far I really like these two. Now I'm gonna set them back here. And okay. Next one we'll open is Mace Windu. Not everyone knows Samuel Jackson. Here's a little trivia note. Samuel Jackson is the actor who has the most action figures made of him. His likeness has been used for more action figures than any other actor. That's an interesting milestone. So I'm guessing that Harrison Ford might be behind him with all the Indiana Jones, Blade Runner, Star Wars. But Samuel Jackson has got Star Wars, Pulp Fiction, King Kong, Marvel. Seems like there's some other action figures I'm forgetting about. He's just been molded into so many different action figures. Okay. And he is not rubber banded in. He just comes with his lightsaber. He actually comes out of the packaging pretty well. And he's in his Jedi robes with a hood that you can presumably put on. It kind of goes on his head, but it doesn't fit really well. But it kind of goes on, and it also doesn't really lay down very well either. So you're just going to have to deal with it. So under his robes, we can go ahead and take these off. And he has his standard Jedi outfit, which is very similar to what Qui-Gon, Jinn, and Obi-Wan wore in the prequel trilogy. He has a very good joint in his waist. It allows a lot of movement. And his head, shoulders. But like most Jedi action figures, his legs are a little bit more restricted because of the tunic that they wear. I've never been a big fan of this particular ankle joint that they use on these figures. There's a close-up of his lightsaber. And he holds it really well. I tried to pick out the one that had the straightest lightsaber. And the blade does pop off, so he can also have an empty lightsaber hilt. unfortunately, there's no place for him to put it on his belt. So he can either hold it or not, but he can't attach it to his belt, which is kind of a bummer. And one thing about these is once you pose it and you get a lightsaber's hand, you want to leave it there because the paint will rub off these really bad. I know that from experience. Let's get the rope back on. The sleeves are quite long. The lightsaber snaps in pretty well. And you could actually pose it with both hands on the lightsaber, which is really cool. Like that. That's kind of how he held it in Revenge of the Sith when he was fighting Palpatine. Now, standing, he stands pretty well. As you can see, he does stand up. He's a little wobbly, and I think he could probably move his feet a little bit. Let's see, these figures have a hard time standing, but especially the Jedis because of that tunic. Let's give it the ultimate test, the table shake. Nope. Nope, nope. They don't stand very well. That's one of the problems. And they have pegs, so you could probably use some stands with them. My goodness, he's having a hard time. Yeah, they have a hard time standing. That's just the nature of these figures. So they all are like this. The next one I will open is Princess Leia. In this case, the picture looks more like Carrie Fisher than the action figure. And she comes with her Alderaan blaster and a Stormtrooper blaster. Okay, no rubber bands in the back. So once again, she has a hood, and it does kind of fit over her head really nicely, and it also goes behind really nicely, so they really worked that out great. The hood is definitely a winner. That looks terrific, and you could get her in the first scene in the movie where she was on the Tantive 4 with her distinctive blaster, and she shot a stormtrooper with it. That's really, really cool. And you could, well, they obviously took the blaster away from her when they captured her on the Death Star, so she ends up requisitioning a stormtrooper blaster. One problem is her finger doesn't make it to the trigger, so this is the same stormtrooper blaster they include with stormtroopers and Han Solo and stuff, so but that's okay. I mean, she still looks good with it. And that, I mean, that's a great figure right there. It really looks like Carrie Fisher, and the hood looks good on her. And it stands. I mean, no complaints about this one. I mean, she looks great. That looks really good. And she's in scale with the other characters because Carrie Fisher was pretty short lady. I'll get some coffee here. Oops. That looks good. Yeah, so far, these 4 figures are great. I'm very, very pleased with how well detailed they are. The little missed surprises, like you find out he has a worm body in there. The facial sculpt of Samuel L. Jackson, Carrie Fisher, her hood that works really well on the soft goods. I mean, really, truly, these figures so far are pretty good. No complaints on that. Next is good old roguish Han Solo, everybody's favorite character that they pretty much destroyed in the sequel trilogy. But I'm gonna pretend like that didn't happen. So, but Harrison Ford, facial sculpt looks pretty much like him. I do know that this is a repack of of the same figure that came with alternate hands that had gloves, and I don't see them. And I kind of always thought that was a dumb thing to put, because there is no, like, he used those gloves just for one scene, and that was firing the cannon on the Millennium Falcon. And there is no cannon or seat or Millennium Falcon in scale with this figure, so basically all you could do is pose him as if he just got finished firing the cannon or was about to fire the cannon, but it's just kind of silly, so they didn't include him this time, which probably makes sense. So we'll show you the back one more time. I'm probably not going to keep the card. And I saved this one for last because I was probably most excited about this figure right here. So, Han Solo, my favorite character on Star Wars, and I'm really liking this fantastic figure. First thing I notice is how shiny his boots are, and you don't get that like with the smaller figures. It's like, that's just a nice touch. His vest is a separate piece, so it creates that dimension. Very, very stiff joints. kind of had to pop him into movement here. You could get him in that kind of that pose when he's talking to Greedo. You know what I'm talking about, where he's just kind of like sitting there and being kind of casual, knowing he's about ready to blast Greedo. So his blaster, I don't know if this, how this is gonna get in here with that strap there. And I don't know if the strap comes off, but he has a holster that presumably is a working holster. And I'm afraid to break that plastic. Of course, he looks best when he's holding the blaster. It fits in hand really well. And it has some detailing on it to make it look like it's been used. It's been, the bluing is scratched off of it. He also comes with the alternate belt with the DC-15 blaster that he could put on when he was escaping the Death Star. It's the same model that she's holding, and you would take this belt off, which I'm not sure I want to do, because I'm not sure how it comes off without, well, there seems to be a snap there. Yeah. So the belt comes off. So we've taken that off, and you know, he has no belt, which is not a way you usually see Han Solo. We'll take this blaster off of his hand, and then this would snap on. If you can find the spot where it will actually fit, and it would look there we go. And then you could have him shooting the Imperial blaster with this belt on. Which looks pretty good too. If you wanted to reenact that scene. And you could have him hold it with two hands. Yeah, so they have everything except the gloves, which makes a lot of sense to me. Get some coffee here. Now, I like this configuration, but I'm going to take this off. Because to me, classic Han Solo has his regular classic blaster. So we're going to put this back on. And it comes back on pretty well. Now the next mystery is this strap here. It almost has to, there we go. There is a peg there, see? So to put this blaster in the holster, there we go. And I don't think that peg wants to go back in there. So there we go. Now his blaster is in the holster. And if you had a Greedo action figure, you have everything you need to reenact that scene where he unsnaps the strap on his blaster before he pulls it on Greedo and blasts Greedo in that scene. He stands really well. The best standing of all of these so far. And see? And that's good, because you want these figures to stand. So these two in the front stand the best. The three in the back are a little bit more challenging to stand up. So let's go ahead and act like he just got back on board the Millennium Falcon and he's got his Stormtrooper stuff, and he's going to put it like in his collection. Oh, I spoke too soon. No, he doesn't want to stand. There we go. So, these are 5 new figures, and then I want to show you how they stand up with my old ones, or my ones I already own. So I have Poe Dameron here, which he's kind of like the new Han Solo of the sequel trilogy. And if you've seen my videos, you know I've reviewed this one before. He comes with this sequel trilogy blaster, and you know he's cool. I love Oscar Isaac. He's probably one of the better parts of the sequel trilogy. He's got his Rebel or Resistance patch on his jacket. This is his second jacket. You know, his first jacket he gave to his friend Finn. So, but the good thing is you can do a fast draw. He looks pretty good with these figures. His outfit reminds me a lot of how Han dressed in Empire Strikes Back and in The Force Awakens. This is Luke Skywalker. A lot of people call this the Farm-Boy Luke. And I noticed that there was a video on YouTube where some action figure guy was complaining that there is no Farm-Boy Luke and we need to stop calling him that, and he was really upset. And first off, I don't understand how you could get really upset over that. But second off, this is the way how we identify him, because what else are we going to call him? you can't really say Tatooine Luke because, you know, he was on Tatooine in other scenes. Farm Boy is, in my opinion, the best thing to call him because that's what he was when he starts his adventure. So I think Farm Boy Luke is an apt description. And he has his binoculars, his outfit that he wore in A New Hope, and he stands pretty good. So if I had C-3PO, R2-D2, and Chewie, Darth Vader, and a Stormtrooper, I'd have a good basic set. So I'm really just missing 4 figures to make a really good basic set here. I have everyone's favorite Gungan, Jar Jar Binks, which actually is a fantastically made action figure. You can find these cheap at Rose's or Bargain Hunt or whatever, but he is really a great action figure with his accessories, his sculpting, his articulation, even if you don't like the character. And I think after the sequel trilogy, a lot of people are kind of warming up to Jar Jar a little bit because he's not as bad as what we know. It can get worse, let's put it like that. Whoops, I totally moved my camera there. Let's get this back. And sorry about that little cut. I accidentally bumped the camera. So I was showing you the next figure here, which is Lando Calrissian, and I keep hitting the camera. And he's a really good figure. He has his cape, which is molded in plastic instead of cloth. And I think this was sort of a tribute to the original figures where he had a vinyl cape. And so, because I think this was came in like an original figure packaging. The head sculpt is okay, but I think they used old Billy D. Williams instead of young Billy D. Williams because they obviously didn't have the ability to do a 3D sculpt. So, and then they try to make him look young. So he doesn't look quite right, but he's still a good figure. His crazy 70s belt, his microphone he uses to warn Cloud City to evacuate because the Empire's here, and he has a Rebel blaster. And wearing his silk shirt, trousers, and disco-looking shoes. He was the quintessential 1970s character. But a good action figure nonetheless. I really like this one. And he looks nice with the others. And he stands pretty well. The next figure I'll show you is Maz Kanata. She was a character in The Force Awakens, little kind of Yoda-like character who they never explained who she was, how she got Luke's lightsaber, how Han knew her, how she seemed to know who Rey was. It seemed like there was a whole story that they abandoned there. She has a private conversation with Han asking about Rey, and then the next thing you know, she takes Rey to hand her Luke's lightsaber, which was in this box right here. And the lightsaber comes out. It is the same mold as the lightsaber Luke's holding here, and you could even put the blade into this one. It's the same thing, even with you could hook it onto his belt. It's even got the little either. And then inside the box, you have some other things that they never explain what they are. Some clothes, some parts, I don't know. The box does close, but I don't want to overdo those plastic joints. So the lightsaber looks nice in there. Just leave it in there. The figure is cool. She has her eyewear that flips up so you can see her eyes. A really beautiful actress did her voice, but they made such an ugly little character, which I always thought was funny. But still, the voice was great, and I liked the character okay. I didn't like a lot about the sequel trilogy, but, you know, The Force Awakens was my favorite of the 3 movies because I think they were trying to start something good there, and it just got screwed up by the next movie. But at the same time, my opinion is they should have just stuck with whatever they were going to do in the next movie, because they had managed to screw it up so bad anyway. By the third movie, they just were trying to do damage control, and it just was a big mess. So that's my Maz Kanata figure. The next one is this really cool Empire Strikes Back at Commander figure. And I really like this figure a lot because you can change his configuration. So let's start with, here he is in at Commander mode. He has his body armor, his blaster, and his helmet. This is the same sort of helmet that we saw in Solo: A Star Wars Story when Han was in the army. It has goggles on it. Really, really cool. You can take the helmet off. And I believe the actor is the same actor who was in Game of Thrones and Indiana Jones and Last Crusade. I think his name is John Glover or Julian Glover. And then you can remove this whole bit of body armor. Let me see how this comes off again. There's a snap somewhere. Here it is. Okay. The whole thing comes off. The holster, the gun belt, and everything. And then he's in his Imperial Class A uniform. And you could put the hat on him. And there you have it. He's ready to meet Darth Vader. He doesn't have a gun belt on, but you know, their uniforms, they didn't wear sidearms. So that's really cool too. So this is a kind of a double figure, which I really appreciate and like. You can, just like Han Solo, the gun has a little strap that holds it in. You can take it out and he has his blaster that fits really nicely in his hand. It looks great. He just looks like a really good Imperial officer. He'd look great next to a Darth Vader figure. And the hat can come off. The face sculpt is really, really good. And now let's return him to his original configuration. There we go. And then his helmet. That chin strap. He has a boom mic there. And there we go. And you can have him holding his hat, which he holds really nicely here. As far as how well he stands, not very. But he does eventually stand. Okay. Get some coffee. Okay, and the final figure I have is Admiral Holdo. Why did I buy this figure? Well, why not? I mean, it's probably one of the most hated characters in Star Wars, or one of the most loved characters. It just depends on who's watching. But we will say this, you either love her or hate her. Now, me, that leaves poor people like me who are big Laura Dern fans, you know, out. You know, I like Laura Dern, and I had nothing against her, and I was excited to see her in the movie. I didn't like the way the character was written, I'll be honest. But that has nothing against Laura Dern, who is a great actress from Twin Peaks, Jurassic Park, you name it. She's a good actress, and I'm going to continue to like Laura Dern, even if I didn't like The Last Jedi. But because I have nothing against her, and I think it's nonetheless, some people hate it, but I still think it's kind of a cool looking figure. She has her elegant looking blaster. She has rings on her fingers. She's in kind of a ball gown, and a lot of people didn't like that. They thought she should have been wearing a uniform. She has lots of rings. Her hair was colored. Some people thought that had a political undertone. Possibly the guy who directed The Last Jedi definitely was blunt about his political feelings, so there was a possibility that was the case. And some people thought that politics didn't belong in Star Wars. So that was, in a nutshell, one of the things that made people upset about The Last Jedi. I don't really care, personally. It's just a movie. It wasn't a very good movie, but in that respect, it didn't make me mad, because I think people get really way too mad over that stuff. I got mad because it wasn't a very good movie, and I thought it didn't portray the characters we knew accurately. But I'm not going to get all political about it. Still like Laura Dern. And so this is my set. I have 4 other figures that are, I have a Kylo Ren, the older Han Solo, a Rey, and BB-8, and I have the dark Sith Rey, which I haven't taken out the packages yet, so I'll save that for another video. But these are the only ones I have unboxed. So of all of these figures, I was pretty pleased with the recent ones I found. I would say that the Han Solo is probably my favorite one of all of these. Just because the figure, it stands really well, the details are really good, and it's a classic figure that makes me nostalgic for old classic Star Wars. And then after him would be Leia and Luke, because these, this is the holy trinity for me of Star Wars. Add the droids and Darth Vader and a Stormtrooper, and you've got a basic set of your great figures. Of course, I like Lando, but as far as technically which figures are the best out of all of these, the Jar Jar Binks, man, is a very, very amazingly done figure. I mean, that's just the shield. Everything about this figure is just a marvel of detail and paint and accessories. And I have to admit, even if you didn't like the character, this is a great figure. The Dryden Vos, once again, it poses really nice. It looks really good. Let's put him in front and center. I mean, and he stands pretty good. I like his cape, his outfit. I mean, the guy didn't have a lot of screen time in the movie, but still an interesting character, and just really I like this figure a lot. I was kind of surprised they didn't make a 3 3/4 scale one of him. Moloch is a big figure that's not very popular, but he is full of surprises. He is very soft feeling. He's really well made, and they obviously put a lot of love into this figure. So, I mean, they're so cheap now, you could buy another one and take his robes off and see his whole worm body if you wanted to. I don't know. I mean, they're all over the place and they're cheap, but I would recommend getting it because it's really not that bad. It actually looks really good. Oops. See if I can get this. Yeah, I had it posed really nicely a few minutes ago. Yeah, and he stands really good. He doesn't hold his mask very well, but he does stand really good. Really do like this figure a lot more than I thought I would. Mace Windu. I mean, that really looks like Samuel L. Jackson in the face. It's a great face sculpt. the lightsaber, the details. These are my only, well, besides the Dark Ray and the Kylo Ren, these are my only 2 lightsabers so far. They're loose. I need a Darth Vader really bad. And in my next video, I'm hoping that I'll have a Darth Vader to show you. And put all these figures together. Nah, they don't stand very well. And this probably, of all of these figures, is probably nothing. I mean, it looks like Oscar Isaac, but you know, I think it's probably the blandest, just because he's just in brown. The pants and the jacket are almost the same color, and it's not a bad figure. If you like, this is really like, you gotta love the character. But he's still cool. He's still a cool looking figure, and everyone, you know, you gotta love Oscar Isaac. Kind of looks a little like Han Solo. And the 5 o'clock shadow. I'm not sure. I wish they kind of done a little bit of a mustache too. They only seem to have gotten the beard area. But he's a pretty good figure. Wow. I mean, all of these, this is a nice little set. I'm kind of pleased with it. Alright. Oops. Oh, there they go. They will start falling. I saw one article that I thought was kind of stupid. That just, see these pants that Han wears, they're called captain's pants. But then some like expanded universe or fan fiction decided to call this a Carillion blood stripe, and that's just stupid. Because if you watch The Empire Strikes Back, Han had brown pants on with a yellow stripe. I think that was just a fashion choice. I don't think the idea of a Carillion blood stripe is just kind of dumb. Some of the expanded universe stuff just got kind of out there. Farm-Boy Luke. I will continue to call him Farm-Boy Luke. I don't care how angry people get over that. And of course, I didn't point out that you can take the blade out of Luke's lightsaber and you can hang it from his belt, which also looks really good. That's a nice touch. I wish that they could have done that with Mace Windu's lightsaber. Okay. Yep, I am dropping them everywhere. Okay, I I've successfully stood them all up. And now I can look at them all. Really nice set. And very, very nice. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching my channel, and I hope you subscribe, click the bell icon, leave me a comment, and until next time, bye.